the United States and the world will simply not stand by and watch as ISIL's evil spreads.
The United States Secretary of State drumming up support in the Middle East as Barack Obama prepares to outline the American strategy for combating ISIS tonight.
I care hugely about this extraordinary country, this United Kingdom that we've built together.
British Prime Minister David Cameron saying he would be heartbroken if Scotland separates. He and other British leaders are there ahead of the referendum on the split of the United Kingdom. Hello, everyone. I'm Carol McNeil. U.S. President Barack Obama will speak to the American people tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, by the way. We'll carry it live here. He's going to be speaking about the threat posed by Islamist militants in Syria and Iraq. He will outline the kind of military action he plans to take against the group known as ISIS or ISIL. Also, they call themselves Islamic State. In advance of tonight's speech, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry traveled to Iraq today. He met with the country's new prime minister, saying he's very encouraged by this man, telling him the United States would back Iraq's efforts to destroy the insurgency. For more on the challenges facing the U.S. in the fight against ISIS, let's turn to Kamran Bokhari. He is an advisor on Middle Eastern and South Asian affairs at the U.S. geopolitical intelligence firm Stratfor. He's also written extensively on this issue, a book called Political Islam in the Age of Democratization. Also a new book coming out on this very topic, The Push for a New Caliphate. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about this situation going into the speech tonight, because it really seems like all of the ducks have been lined up in a row. You have the new Prime Minister of Iraq, who's promised to put together this National Guard that promises to be inclusive of Sunnis and to make sure that Shia and Sunnis are comfortable in this country with a financial future linked to that. Then you also have a coalition of the willing, if you will, which is very extensive. It includes Canada, Britain, France is on board, maybe some of the regional players as well. How crucial is it that the United States have the regional players, including Saudi Arabia, on board before they expand their military campaign into Iraq and Syria?
More importantly than Saudi Arabia is Iran, and that nobody's talking about, because the United States and Iran's relationship is a controversial one in this realm of cooperation. But even as we speak, there is cooperation, quiet cooperation and coordination between Iran and the United States insofar as Iraq is concerned. But the U.S. strategy also includes Syria. That's where the U.S. and the Iranians are not on the same page. So the difference between the allies that the United States will have in Iraq and the allies that it's going to have on the ground in Syria will complicate this war tremendously.
Okay. How likely is it that the United States and its willing partners could go to the border of Syria and stop there? Is that even possible?
No, there is no way, because in order to dislodge IS from Iraq, you need to strike at IS in its strategic depth realm, which is Syria. When you strike at Syria, at IS, you create a vacuum. The question is, who will fill that vacuum? Will it be the Assad regime that the United States does not support and is supportive of its toppling, or will it be the rebels? And that's going to really determine the landscape there, and is something that IS will heavily exploit.
I guess it depends on how you cross the border. Do you cross the border with your own fighter jets and your allies' fighter jets, or do you cross the border by arming the moderate rebels with weapons that they can use themselves against both ISIS and the Bashar al-Assad regime?
From the air, this is going to be more or less a singular battle space. So the border is meaningless from the air, because IS is on both sides of the border. On the ground, the United States would not like Iraqi actors to cross the border into Syria, because that is exactly what IS wants. IS wants this to be there be no border between Iraq and Syria, which is the kind of so-called caliphate that it seeks. So the U.S. is going to be working against that objective, and that's where the difficulties will arise.
How do you think they'll manage those difficulties? How might the success manifest itself?
The way to do that on paper is to say, first things first, let's get IS out of Iraq. The way to do that is to do pinpoint strategic bombing in Syria. Later on, we can talk about arming rebels and whatnot. That's a long-term process, and then toppling up the Assad regime. But for now, weaken IS, throw IS out of Iraq, and then try to contain it in Syria. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But you start off saying they have to cross that bridge at some point. They can't just contain them into Syria.
Air.
Oh, from the air.
From the air, because it's going to be very difficult for the United States to work with pro-Iranian actors in Iraq and then work with anti-Iranian actors in Syria and achieve the desired result.
Okay. So it is a split focus in many ways.
Absolutely.
Iraq first, Syria second.
In a matter of speaking.
Okay.
But we'll have to wait for the president to tell us what he's really going to do.
Is that what you're going to be waiting for, to see what the strategy will be?
I will,
overall?
but I don't expect details. This is more about public relations.
Yeah.
And I don't expect the president to lay out too many details here. This is the 13th anniversary of 9/11. There's that. There are midterm elections coming up in November. There's a lot of political aspect to this entire strategy that he has to keep in mind when speaking tonight.
All right. Kamran Bokhari, Middle East Affairs Advisor with the U.S. geopolitical intelligence firm Stratfor and author. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay.